Yeah, so I sort of invented several techniques to construct this piece. Making the armature was probably the easy part. So there's a substructure which is steel and plywood, and then because I was using sugar, and sugar has a history of being used as decorative centerpieces, like the Cara Walker piece that was in Brooklyn a couple of years ago, and various other rails have used sugar, but it all goes back to a history of table decoration and chefs preparing these elaborate creations for the enjoyment of guests seated around a table. Techniques which included even blowing sugar like blown glass. I had 8 months to get my work together, so I did some experimentation to see if I could grow my own crystals, and realised that was going to be a PhD thesis in itself, and I didn't have the time to quite do that. So I ended up buying all the sugar. I went down to an Asian grocery store in Albuquerque and emptied their shelves of rock sugar, and loaded it into some shopping carts, and got it to the checkout, and the woman looked at me and said, "Doing some baking, are you?" And so anyway, I carted that sugar back to my studio, and it sat in the corner for a little while whilst I went about making the armature for this piece. So the substructure is steel and plywood, and then the Baroque scrolling on the carriage is scrunched up aluminum foil, hot glued in place, and then I gessoed the entire structure in order to just kind of create some unity, and then I painted the structure with acrylic medium, which was like a gel-like paste onto which I was able to flock the sugar. And fortunately, being New Mexico with zero humidity, the acrylic medium would dry overnight and bond the sugar. So it actually, between the layers of the gesso and the acrylic medium, it became quite a strong surface, and the sugar really adhered to that surface. During the application of the sugar, most of the sugar was white, or ran through sort of white to a sort of pale yellow tone. And once I'd applied the sugar, it kind of did look a bit dirty. It didn't have that kind of white, pristine sugar cube look to it. It wasn't yellow enough to look intentional, and it wasn't white enough to look pristine. So I needed some form of sealing it too. So initially I was thinking of using clear shellac, but I switched to an amber-coloured shellac, and I put my first layer on and sprayed it on with a bottle, and it just made it look worse. And I thought, I've just spent 8 months making this thing, and now in one spray I've destroyed it. I can't even remove the shellac. And my partner at the time, he was great consolation. He said, just leave it for the day and sleep on it and see what you think tomorrow with fresh eyes. So the next morning I got back into the studio, and I just started spraying it again, and ended up building about probably 8 to 10 layers of shellac. And so shellac itself is something that's used in furniture making. It's one of the sort of natural forms of lacquer used in French polishing. And so its source actually is the wings of beetles. which are collected and then are dissolved in denatured alcohol to form a natural lacquer.